anyway. Well, welcome everybody and Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a good weekend celebration at least. So this meeting is being held via Zoom under a law signed by Governor Baker and granting authority for these virtual meetings to be held. And it was extended by Governor Healy through March 31st, 2025. At some point,
audio now unmuted.
At some point, we hope maybe we'll have some in-person meetings again and we'll figure that out. But in the meantime, this is working. I also want to confirm that these recordings for these SAB meetings are being done and allowing for local recordings, and they're available to the public. So everyone should know that. And that's it. Welcome everyone. The first agenda item that we need to do for the board is to approve the minutes from December.
Has joined the meeting. This meeting is being.
So Kathy and Blair, do you have any edits or comments about the minutes from December?
I don't have any edits or comments, Brian.
And Blair, are you're muted? If you could unmute to participate in this part of the vote and so forth. All right, we can unmute him, can't we?
You can. You should be able to.
I can't. I'm not an administrator, but Lucy or somebody could.
Yeah, I just asked to. You just click like ask to unmute.
Audio now unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
We can now.
Sorry, guys. So this is Blair. I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you very much. It's official. Minutes are approved. Okay, Commissioner, you're up next.
Okay. It seems like we just did this just the other day.
Seems that way.
Time flies when we're having fun here. No, it's Happy New Year to all, and hope you all had a great holiday. And things always move by quickly, and now we're back to the new year and keep things rolling here. So this week we're having an agency staff meeting called the Roundtable. Many folks do attend, and we just talk about a lot of different general topics. So one of the topics that we will be presenting to the folks this Thursday is our strategic mapping. We've talked about that before here. We've been working on it. We had a presentation with the secretary. That went all well. I think we talked to you about that already. And so now we roll it out, and they've hired another consultant that will work closely with the agencies to keep us moving forward and meeting the priorities and doing what we need to do to meet the strategic, the priorities set forth in the strategic mapping. And also we have a new mission. Well, not a new mission. We have a mission statement with different wording. Our mission is always the same, obviously, to serve the blind community here. So in our vision, it's been tweaked a little bit. We'll be rolling this out on Thursday to all the staff, and then we'll be looking for more participation as we move forward. This is a 3-year plan, 3 to 5 year plan. So therefore, we have quite a while to work on this, but it will be moving on a steady pace to achieving our goals.
Commissioner, I know in the last meeting in December, you mentioned this, of course, and you mentioned sharing a vision and mission statement. But now that you're saying you're meeting with your staff this Thursday, I'm assuming you're going to hold off on that public mission and vision statement to give it to us now. Otherwise, maybe you can email it to us after the fact.
If we could give it to you guys right after the meeting on Thursday, then we'll release the staff, and then we'll give a little bit of a grace period in case somebody wants to make any comments or has any suggestions. And then we'll post it up on the website and display it as where it's supposed to be displayed. It'll also be used on our brochure. That's kind of part of this, one of the priorities of this. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll send that, email that to you guys on Thursday. I will have Lucy take care of that after
All right,
we've
thank you.
discussed with the staff. And so that's the big priority. And another discussion point that's been going on here at the agency is our lack of qualified personnel to bring to fill the positions that are available and are vacant. So my intent is to pull a team together involving agency staff, some of our vendors, and the educational institutions that are charged with preparing folks, some of the folks that we need to hire here at MCB. And we will see what we can develop. And I think it's just going to take a lot of outreach and a lot of public education to let people know that these career opportunities exist and are here. So just recently, to help alleviate some of the staff, quality staff issues, it has been proposed that we remove or do not require a master's degree at the entry level of a VR counselor. So that's the union is in agreement with that. So that will, I don't know if it'll help solve, since I've been around here for a while, we had these loose hiring requirements back in the 90s. And after so many counselors were hired and so many agencies were trying to do what they could to staff the positions, the consumers went to Congress and insisted that VR counselors should have training in areas of working with people with disabilities. And so at that point, the conclusion was that RSA would pay for individuals who didn't have master's degrees to obtain them. Fortunately, most of our staff here at the agency had it, but we had some that didn't, and we were glad to help out, and we offered financial assistance. I know that our sister agency, MRC, they filled classrooms at UMass Boston to help meet this objective to help individuals obtain master's degrees. So here we are, many years later, decades later, and we're taking that away. Unfortunately, it's not something that I'm in favor of doing, but it's something that I think that we are going to have to do to fill or attract a higher number of candidates for the positions.
Commissioner, if I could interrupt and just ask a question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
So first of all, you're not alone. I mean, it's not just this area, as you know, even in the educational public school systems, I know they can't even get substitute teachers in cases, never mind qualified teachers in some case. But in this category with you, minimizing or the requirements to start are different from saying within 3 years or some time period they have to get a master's degree. Is that completely gone the way you're talking about this right now?
So I just received this notice about an hour ago, and I haven't spoken to the individuals. So I believe how it's being set up is if you come in as a counselor 1, you don't have to have the master's degree, but then the counselor 2, you might need to have it. So again, I just got a quick blurb from our labor people, and we'll give you more details as soon as we had this moved, I guess last week. And so there's not a lot of details yet, and there'll be some final discussions that go on before it gets, but this is the trend that it's going. And I agree with it in a way that maybe you get people in, but the agencies have to commit to doing some substantial training, because you have to train people in working, obviously the regular sensitivity training, working with people who are disabled is something that needs, if they don't have it, that's a training that has to go on at the agency level. You're going to have to train them on the basics of VR 101 if they don't have that background. So there will have to be some training that will be developed at the agencies that these new staff will have to attend and do well in. I mean, so there is a probationary period when a staff person is hired of 9 months. So you do have some time to see if the individual is worth picking it up or it will work out. So that's the way it is. But it's sort of, again, we'll see. And that's why I'm thinking if we can reach out and educate the undergrad students, even educate the high school students, seniors that are looking at attending career fairs, get them into this sort of thinking about this, and then they can pursue a degree in some kind of human service, and then maybe work their way through the undergrad, and then maybe obtain an entry-level position. And then, with online master's degrees, those can be obtained much easier than they could be obtained back in the 90s when this came to a head, when folks had to get the master's degrees. Most of those were done in person. So there are options, and if it's a way that we can get people to come and learn and try out to see if they want to work in vocational rehab or work with people who are blind in different areas, that'll work out.
Commissioner, one other question, if I could.
Sure.
So was this decision made through the HR, I know you said the union approved of this change.
It's not. It's a change that's been proposed by. I mean, everything at the agency level, we put it to our labor folks, and then they work it back and forth. The union's involved with the labor. They're representatives from the agencies there, and you work to come to some kind of agreement.
So I just wanted to clarify, it wasn't coming from the secretary down to other agencies as well. This is something you guys are working on internally.
Yeah, this is something that's sort of been in discussion for quite a number of years. It sort of faded away a little bit during the pandemic, but it's back on the table because I think all agencies, as you mentioned yourself, all agencies are having a hard time filling the positions that are available. So I know that MRC was the one that was proposing this. MCB was not proposing it, but we'll work with it because I mean our numbers are very low as far as the candidates applying for the jobs. we've had variety of postings and repostings, and we were about to repost another one that's been posted, I think, twice already. So, and I think we're going to post a orientation and mobility position for the 4th time, sometimes later this month. And so it sort of works, but this proposal really is impacting only the vocational counselors. There are different, so it's a different classification. So what we're going to be doing here at MCB, since MCB and a couple of vendors are the only ones that really retain vision rehab therapists and mobility instructors, we're going to try going to that through a different way and see what else we can do. So the change I'm talking about is really impacting the vocational counselors, not the vision rehab therapists or the orientation mobility folks here at the agency. So it's going to be a little dicey, but because again, whether it's social rehab or vocational rehab, the numbers are very low. The numbers of qualified candidates are even smaller. The numbers of folks who come through the interviews when they realize what the job is or what it entails, interest sometimes disappears, or they're so it's an issue that will be with us for quite a bit of time. So we will be pulling a committee together, again, consisting of vendors and agency staff and educators, and see if collectively we can come up with some kind of idea or program to educate individuals and get them to learn about the positions.
John,
we
this
have the
is
same.
Kathy. Oh, sorry. If I could just
Go ahead.
jump in and comment. So I hear your, hesitancy, if you will, about lowering the standard. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, this could give some people an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have. Couple questions. One, if somebody comes in with a bachelor's degree, will RSA and or MCB pay for them to pursue their master's degree? Will that be a requirement? Similar question, if not same, to Brian's, or is if they do decide to pursue the master's degree, will the state or the funder RSA pay for that? Will they sponsor that?
So since this hasn't been done yet, that's
know.
that's something that would be negotiated, but I would be in favor of that.
Yeah.
That within 3 years or a reasonable amount of time, that the agency will pay. If RSA doesn't pay through one of their educational partners, UMass being one here in the Boston area, if they don't offer that through their program that they offer now for mobility instructors or for vocational counselors and vision rehab therapists. So therefore, we would certainly, I see the benefit in that, and we would certainly do the best we could to offer to pick up those courses.
That's right.
At least we'll establish at least a core courses that they have to take, even if it doesn't get them to the master's degree. But they would be asked to do that. But that's all. Those are all matters that the union has to also be on board with. So this is probably going to be talked about over the next several months, maybe for implementation in the next contract period, sometime later this year, July, August, September. So this has some discussion to be had as over the next several months.
I certainly sympathize with you. I can say at our organization, we've spent thousands of dollars more than we've ever had to recruit, and it's been very difficult. And we've also had to make changes, and it does impact our own staff as far as trying to make sure resources for people that are learning can have the skills they need. So I certainly understand. Thank you for spending the time to give us a little more background on it and keep us posted going forward. I think it's important, obviously, for you guys.
Mhm.
I have another question or comment, if you don't
Sure.
mind. And just as far as outreach goes, John, I'd certainly be willing to be part of that group if you think it would be helpful. And between Work Without Limits, National Braille Press, Mass Eye and Ear, I would think there might be something we could do to help with the outreach or with strategy and planning.
Uh-huh.
So just kind of offering that up
Yeah.
on behalf of all of us, I guess, and on behalf of your advisory council. And I do have one question: can these positions be remote? For us that Work Without Limits, where I work, as you know, we recently hired 2 benefit specialists. One for our work incentive planning and assistance grant, one for our employment network, and they're both fully remote, and it opened up an opportunity for us because we did hire one person who lives in Delaware and one person who lives in Virginia. So it really opened up the pool of qualified applicants.
Right. And that's perfectly fine. An orientation and mobility instructor obviously spends time in the field with a consumer in their neighborhood, in their workplace, and wherever they want to go. And a vision rehab therapist spends time teaching people in their home, safe cooking, those sort of things. So can they be done in remote setting? Some of it was done in a remote setting, as much as could be done during the pandemic, but most of the consumers, I think, would say that for certain skills training, on hand, on site, and having that instructor be there right with you, correcting and directing you as you go forward in your trying to do that activity is probably the best way to have it done. So
I think I was thinking more of the voc rehab counselor.
Yeah, the vocational counselors, that's been successfully managed and is being handled through Zoom, but some consumers still prefer the one-on-one, get to know people a little better. But yes, those are being handled at this point. Some of our counselors are meeting as often with people online as they do with people in person. If that's what they choose to do, then the counselor can certainly work with them over Zoom or Teams and work that out.
Yeah, so at the very least, it's a hybrid.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
I would just add that I would be happy to, as Kathy's saying, to offer support with that too, since we can tell you what we've done that didn't work versus did work, and what social media did work and didn't work, and
that might be very helpful.
Yeah, we'd be happy to.
We'll keep
I'd be
that
happy
in
to
mind.
join. Okay, thank you. Great.
And this is Blair, and certainly I offer my assistance in evaluating educational programs from a teaching perspective, and that's my background. So if we look at educational options or designing a hybrid model, as Kathy's suggesting, I'm available to be part of that discussion.
Very good. So we'll move on to the budget briefly. So we've closed federal fiscal year 22. So that's been completed. We're currently working on funding or using funding to run the agency from funds from federal fiscal year 23. Because of the continuing resolutions, the agency continues to use federal fiscal year 23, and we've drawn all those funds down. So if the government shuts down in mid to late January, we have enough funding to keep everything moving smoothly. We have received an allotment of our fiscal year 24 funding, but I've asked fiscal not to draw down on that. We anticipate drawing down on that sometime in March. That is the usual time period that we transition over to the current federal fiscal year, because we're trying to make sure that we're still encumbering, we're still liquidating we're still working on federal fiscal year 23, and we have until September of this year, 2024, to liquidate all of those funds. So we will continue to use them to get to the point where we'll have as little money left available to return as possible. So that's going well. I'll get a report on that on the fiscal year 22, how that went. I'm sure there'll be a few bucks to return, but that's normal procedure in grant management, that you can't liquidate 100% of the grant in most cases, but it will be a very small amount. We liquidated as much as we encumbered and liquidated as much as we could, but it'll be a very small amount, and that's something that will be returned. It's a simple routine process, and we'll go forward from there. So we continue to just be very attentive to the budget. I and the fiscal team are very, very much on top of it. I talk to our CFO often and frequent about things, and we're going to have this meeting Thursday. We'll have other meetings after that, so that we are all on the same page. They are meeting with each of the managers that run the regions to make sure that funding is allocated appropriately for the second half of the year. This is the calendar year, so therefore January through June, we'll make sure that they have all the money they need to fund college tuition and books and supplies and training and all that sort of thing. And then at some point in March, we will transition to the federal fiscal year 24 money and move forward from there. So that's pretty much, it's moving along. The earmarks, I hear folks are booking and are using the vendors' resources to get some training. The dashboard RFR is going to be released this week. We're ready to go with it, but then with the holidays and people taking time off, we didn't want because it has to be posted for 14 days. So we will post it now that people are back from the holiday breaks. We'll have certain vendors with all their crew on board to write up the response to this dashboard project. Still don't have the final clearance on the all consumer survey that we did, that we're waiting to talk to you guys about. It's in the works. I also had a conversation with the undersecretary regarding the 2 vacant positions here at SAB. They have brought another individual in that his job is going to be mainly to drive this forward. They've asked me to provide a list of all the members on the different boards and committees here at MCB. They've received those. They're looking for the expiration date so they can better track when terms are expiring, so they can be ready to move forward and come up with a replacement. So I think that we're with someone who's going to be specifically responsible for this. I think it's going to work out pretty well. The candidates that were interested in being on the SAB are up there and are being reviewed. So hopefully in a few weeks we will have an answer and we'll have some more folks on the board. And that's pretty much it for me. So we'll give it back to you, Brian.
Well, yeah, thank you. I just crossed off my bullets of questions because you just answered them for me, which is great. Before we go on, if there's any program stuff, I'll let Kathy or Blair, if you have any other questions for the commissioner before we continue on, even we can do that quickly.
Just for clarification, John, I think I missed it regarding the RFP for the dashboard. Did you say that it's being posted or it's being posted for review and comments?
No, it's being It's being posted on Combis this week.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right. Are there any program updates we need to discuss today?
Nate has some update, I believe. Nate?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I do have the
There you go.
dashboard if we want to review that. I can share that real quick.
It never will. All right. Yeah.
Happy New Year, everybody. So what I'm showing now is the Excel dashboard. Not a lot, again, like the last few meetings, not a lot of big changes. We're currently for 2023 at 1,850 folks coming in through the registration process. That number will go up a little bit over the next few days. We do spread it out. We give the providers a few weeks to get people in, and if the data on the reports are before 2024, we'll put them in for the 2023. Then we'll let that go on for a few weeks here and see where we land for our final number for the year, but it should be somewhere between here and 1,900, I'm guessing. Just a change of we currently have 5 registrations in process. They were all received Saturday. They're probably done now. I ran these numbers early this morning, so I'm sure those are complete at this point. No other registrations pending. A little bit of a change in our SR cases. We saw them go up by close to 90 registrations, or people coming in rather. We're up 9 for SR children, up 75 for SR adults, and up 8 in our amount of open cases in DBES.
That's a big jump, Nate.
Yeah, it's we got quite a few over the last month, so and probably didn't see the same amount of closures as we would normally see with the holidays and folks being out and stuff like that. So I'm guessing why that's probably a little bit higher than it normally would be. A lot of time off in December, so probably didn't have the same amount of closures coming through the last few weeks here that we would normally have. But we actually had a busier December than we expected as far as registrations go. So that was good to see.
Good.
VR adults, pre-eds and transition youth, pretty much the same. We had 2 less in VR adults and 1 less in pre-eds, so not a big change there. Closed SR and SRC cases for the year. So these are our final numbers here. We had 111 closed SR children for the year, 2,150 closed cases for SR adults.
And these are successful closures or all closures or what? I mean, this is a positive thing, right? If somebody's case is
sure.
closed.
Yeah.
Okay.
For these, for the SR cases, that means they meet their goals and we close them. Otherwise, we keep them moving towards those goals. A lot of those are social rehabilitation goals. They're not vocational goals, so they're not hinging on a job or not getting a job. Closed VR cases. So this is the fiscal year. So this is from July forward. We're currently at 66 successful closures, and 54 non-successful closures for VR. A few other stats here. We had about 4,200 cases referred to support services. So again, support services could be our assistive technology unit, could be our social, our rehabilitation teaching, it could be orientation and mobility. So quite a few referrals going out there. And end of the year stats for the auxiliary services. Didn't quite break 8,000 for COBs, but we got really close. At 7,921. We had completed 1,115 IDs for the year, 467 EDPs, which was about 20 short of last year. And this was a typo. This should be 70 handicap placards, not 60. So we had 70 handicap placards this year, which was a little less than last year. We had 78. So quite a bit more COBs, quite a bit more IDs, and around the same EDPs and HP placards. The HP placards, a lot of them go out through the regions too. So a lot of those don't go through the registry unit. So that number is probably much higher if we were able to collect the data that for the ones that are going out from the regions, but that's not something we're able to do. So that's it for the stats. Like I said, not a lot of big changes, but if anybody has any questions or if they would like to see something different, let me know in the next few months. Like John said, we are putting out that RFR that will be requesting assistance for the data dashboard, which will include most, if not all of this. So we might be able just to refer to that going forward once that's put in place later down the line. So
Nate,
no one has any questions?
this is Kathy, any concerns about
Hey,
the VR successful closures? Because they look like there might be a little lower than last year, or are things right on target?
They're kind of right on the same spot they were last year. For whatever reason, we ramp up towards the end of the year. I don't know if it's the spring with more people hiring and those type of things that kind of helps us ramp up a little bit there. But it's the trend over the last few years, and really the years that I've worked here has been they've kind of increased towards the second half of the year.
That makes sense, because you want to try to keep cases open as long as possible to make sure people have the supports that they need.
Yeah, everybody has different runways too. They're coming in at different times. It's I think it has more to do with the labor market than anything else, because just the frequency that have people coming in is kind of consistent. We have in general over the past few years had less VR people coming in and have been able to maintain those numbers and increase those numbers each year. So something to be aware of for sure.
Yeah.
Nate, this is Brian. Just a minor question from my own. When you mentioned the HP numbers at 70, and you don't have all because of the regions, are those just from Boston then, from the commission's, the main agency that you're getting?
Yeah. So the HP placards are the ones that are listed here are the ones that go through the registration team. So if someone's on the road or they're unable to get that out and they feel like it needs to go out quickly, a lot of times they'll contact the registration unit and they'll pass that through for them.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. But I bet you, Brian, it doubles. That number would double if we were able to collect that information.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to throw all the blocks and rebuild, because your data's been consistent. I'm not trying to change it. I was just trying to understand the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Understood. Thank you. Let's see, it's 12:38. We're doing well. Any general SAB members, any other comments or questions going forward? I know we've asked that already, but one more shot before we go to public comments.
Yeah, I have a question for Nathan, if that's okay.
Sure.
So Nathan, and this may be a John question too, in terms of how would you evaluate or rate MCB's ability to communicate regularly to the entire current client list of MCB about, I know that there was an email blast about White Cane Day, but how about other events that MCB is conducting throughout the year? The commissioner visited different towns at the last meeting, and there may be some training programs available to clients of MCB through the Polis Center or New England Low Vision or the Carroll Center. Are those notices sent out to MCB clients on a regular basis, and do you carefully monitor the open rate of those messages? Can we do a better job on that? What are your comments as to
communications manages all that? So it goes out through all of our social media channels. The Carroll Center or whomever sends us the announcement, we will distribute it. They also, whichever vendor is, they distribute it to their lists. And then Obviously, they have a lot of people they are in contact with, so they reach a lot of people that are used to working with them. And so if we send it out, we can monitor how many people are looking at it, and what was it open, was it just clicked on, or whatever. Mike is able to track all that. But if the vendors are sending it out, we don't know we're not part of that. So, does that answer the question, or do you need more?
So is there a possibility that, does MCB have the desire to kind of be the focal point of communication to MCB clients? And make that, other
Well,
vendors, do the vendors see MCB?
So not all MCB clients have email.
Mhm.
So although we're using the social channels, we are using, there's on our website, if you're an organization, you can send it to us, and Mike will post it up on the community bulletin board type of page, so people can go look at that. But we're not in a position to do direct mail of announcements. So therefore, it is, if the person is connected to some social media or through the organizations, consumer organizations, they're more apt to hear about things than someone who's totally isolated and doesn't use any of those. We do not have the staffing or to direct mail thousands and tens of thousands of, for someone that's for one of the vendors that's offering a program and that sort of thing.
No,
So
I'm not asking for direct mail, but I was just wondering about our email. And then my last question is just following up on a reverse job fair and career opportunities in education. If you would let us know of those meetings, we, as an SAB group, would be interested in learning more about the organizations, those types of events.
Those are the employment services being handled out of our employment services unit. We'll let them know, and when they start meeting about it, they can send you an announcement, and if you guys want to join, you can, to help in the planning process. So
thank you.
That's
Very good. Thank you, Blair. Okay,
Blair,
so
I also wanted to mention just really quickly too, because you had mentioned programs and stuff like that, or other things that are going on. The staff are really connected with their consumer base too. So if there is like something that's available that they remember that they have a consumer that might need training in something or might be interested in a certain topic, they'll reach out to those folks and let them know what's available and how to access that. I think that happens a lot as well. And our email distribution is going up each year. It's something that we monitor, and those numbers are definitely increasing. More and more people are communicating by email. That's something that as an agency we really have concentrated on trying to build that base, because it is a lot of times the best way to communicate, and that's something that I know that the workers, the caseworkers that are out in the field are trying to obtain when they are able, and making sure that we continue to build upon that base. And when we did the survey, and you will see this when we're able to share the results, that we had a much higher success rate connecting with people that did have email addresses than mailing or other forms of connecting with them. So just wanted to throw that in there as well.
So Blair, on our vocational side, most of our clients, obviously, if you're looking for work, you have access to email and that sort of thing. So, and the counselors collect that and put it into the case, into their case, and they communicate with them by email. So on the SR side, although we're seeing the number increasing on the social rehab side, it's not nowhere near as the number that we have on the voc rehab side. But if they do have it, we do collect it. If they're in social rehab, we do ask them. A lot of times they'll say, my kid's address, email address is this, and then they provide the child's email address at some point. But we keep asking, and since a lot of our SR folks are being trained by the vendors and through the earmark funding, we anticipate that's going to get higher as time goes on.
And in general, just with demographics, I mean, as you know, older demographics are reluctant or won't do email or have computers. The younger generations that keep coming up through the system you'll see that trend anyway upward over time. So yeah, it's a challenge. I can say with our organization, it's the same thing. A lot of our consumers call in orders for things they want to get. They don't use any email, you know, so it's the same. We're all dealing with that pool. Yep, very good. So I don't see any hands up. Does anyone have any questions from the public at this point? Let me just make my screen a little wider. Oh, there you go, David Kingsbury.
Happy New Year to you all. I have a couple of questions. On the VR closures, is it possible? You know, often people will you know, re-up temporarily for you know, will reopen their VR case because maybe they want like a couple of weeks of you know, refresher computer training or something like that. So they're employed. They're not, you know, in risk of losing their job. They just want a little extra training. They do their couple of weeks of training, and then they close the case. Is it possible to break that out? Not right now. I'm just wondering if it's actually possible to break out when you have successful closures. I assume those would be classified as successful closures. You know, what proportion of those are like the situation I just said versus people who were not employed? They get their MCB intervention, and then afterwards they become employed. So is it possible to break that out? That's my first question. I could ask the second now, or just
we'll answer that now.
Okay.
So David, so most of the time when someone comes back in for that, what you're characterizing as a simple training, they have to go through the process, through the eligibility, through the writing of the plan. They have to get the services. It has to be scheduled. Then we have to do a stable employment period, and then you know, and then which 90 days or more than 90 days, and then so most likely or not, you're not going to get cases being closed twice in the same fiscal year. So it wouldn't be as quick. So in post-employment services, you could have done that in the past, but you can't do that anymore. You have to go through the whole case process. And you can also only offer post-employment services while the case is still open. So if someone is working and all of a sudden they get the 2 weeks training and they want more, then they would be in that position to do that. So so that would be classified as a job retention. If they're coming in and they're going to work, it's a job retention. It will be counted and it will not be available for any reimbursement, that sort of thing, if the person is working full time and all that. So it's a simple, we're going to get you the services. We're going to close the case when we're done with the service, and it's going to be counted. But I don't think it would be it would ever be closed, because we could leave it open until the next fiscal year anyway. So it doesn't matter if it's 90 days or 120 days, but it has to be a minimum of 90 days under stable employment. So therefore, they're going to have their time in the system, and they may not be getting anything else other than that service, but it has to go through that time clock, because if something comes up, then we don't have to reopen it. We can just roll it back, and they can get additional training. So like if it's 80 days and they've been stable, and all of a sudden they realize, oh no, a company just bought a new package, a new software. So we would roll it back, and you'd get, and that just is the counselor doing a change, and the consumer would be available to get additional training for this new system they just found out about. then we would put it back once they were trained. We'd put it back into employment again, and it is stable, and we'd watch it again for 90 days. And then finally, when that was, when both parties are happy and feel that, then the case is closed. So it wouldn't, so you'd have like job retentions, or you'd have cases that are a brand new job and were unemployed when they came to VR. So that's
okay.
that's
So let's say I got training 10 years ago, and I got a job. I was either closed 10 years ago successfully or unsuccessfully, depending on how much later it took me to get that job. But then I come back today because I'd like some refresher training. I would reopen. It would be reopened. I get my training. I'm still employed. I close it. What would I be classified as in that case?
You'd be because you come to us employed. It'd be a job retention case. So you would be getting training to retain your job or to further your career in the future.
Oh, so it's a different category than.
It's a different category, but it's really you wouldn't really notice that's all tracked inside within the 9/11 report and that sort of thing. So that it's not like it wouldn't be considered as a brand new job.
Okay, all right.
It would be you're coming back to us. I mean, you would not be considered unemployed. And that's when you do the application. You'd be asked, "Are you employed?" And you would say, "Yes, I have been employed at such a place for this number of years." And so that's known to us as it's a job retention or job retention, and then the training also can be used for further advancement on the job.
Okay, all right. My other question goes back to the whole issue of the challenges of recruiting new staff. Is there an additional challenge related to just how competitive MCB salaries and wage salaries and benefits are? Because I've heard, maybe I'm wrong about this, that, for example, the VA, the Veterans Administration, apparently pays much better. Am I right or wrong about that? Is just the competitiveness of salary and benefits also an issue that makes it hard to recruit?
So you are correct in that in a certain way. So the government does pay more as far as starting salary, does give you benefits. We have lost some people that we had here a number of years ago to the VA, but there aren't as many. To work with people who are blind, there aren't as many VA jobs. So therefore, it impacts a very small number of people. Probably I probably know fewer than 4 people that have left MCB to go to the VA. And so, we're all competing, just like the Carroll Center competes with us and we compete with them. Perkins competes with us for mobility instructors. So the 3 of us and the school systems are all competing against us because they will retain an instructor directly. So whatever it is, it's part of the employment that's out there, and it's something that we have to deal with. And but all of us seem to be struggling at finding qualified candidates, and so that's. But the VA does pay better, and like I know some of the VA positions, they'll give you a government car, where the state doesn't do that, and they'll let you take the government car home. We could get you a car to use, but you have to return it every day. But they'll give you a car, and you can go take it wherever you want to go and drive it on personal. And so they have a much more liberal way of doing business, because their territory that their staff are asked to cover is a lot larger than ours. So, but again, there are not that many staff working with the VA folks that are blinded, and we also work with them But they have their own program. They have their own rehab center in Connecticut that they go to get rehabilitation services. But they all have to go to Connecticut from the New England area.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
it is a little different, but the VA we've lost a couple to them, but it's not.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We're competing for jobs, and we're in the second most expensive place to live in the United States too. So Kathy, you have a question, your hand's raised.
Well, I was just wondering, you sparked a thought in me, John, when you mentioned you were bringing a group together, vendors, etc., around the recruitment issue. And then now I just heard you say that you compete with each other, which I totally get, but I'm wondering, is that part of the purpose of the group? Is possible to maybe have a more collaborative approach to recruiting? Like if you have two good candidates and you hire one, but Perkins School is looking for someone, can you share that resource of that candidate, or is that part of the thought process or not?
I don't know. It could be.
Could be.
I don't know. I mean, we're competing as far as, do you want to work at a community-based center? Do you want to work at an education facility? Do you want to work in the community where you're going to people's homes? So that's sort of, the employee makes that final decision. So
Right.
we offer the same position, but it's the way it works is different.
Yeah.
If you're working with Perkins, you're going to be working with younger kids primarily. If you're working with MCB, you're going to be working with a lot of seniors, with a mixed population.
Yeah.
If you're working with a Carroll Center, you may be working either or. So it's yeah. So
Wouldn't it be nice to have extra candidates? You don't know what to do.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be nice to have recruit people and get people to learn about the positions and have 10 people apply for the jobs instead of 2, and then all of us would have enough to pick from.
Yeah.
Any other questions, anybody, before we wrap up? We only have a couple minutes. None shown.
All right.
Wow, we're going to close early. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for your time. Happy New Year. And as we offered before, all of the SAB members offered, John, to give you support if you'd like for some of these ideas that we talked about earlier.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Happy
Bye-bye.
New Year.